You know, normally when you look at a calendar, the transition from early July into the 4th of July weekend is, it's just a matter of a few days passing, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's totally predictable.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at a stack of local police and sheriff reports, um, that same stretch of time doesn't just pass. It honestly just explodes.
Oh, absolutely. It's like flipping a switch.
Yeah. You go from this sleepy Tuesday where, I don't know, the biggest community issue is the stray cat to an unpredictable countywide free-for-all.
Well, it really is this fascinating sociological shift if you think about it.
Yeah.
You basically watch the baseline of normal human behavior just completely recalibrate for about 72 hours.
Oh, for sure.
The rules change, the hours people are awake change, and the threshold for what constitutes an emergency, I mean, it completely blurs.
Exactly. So let's get right into it then. Welcome to this week's local audio briefing. We are taking a hefty stack of Antigo Police and Langlade County Sheriff reports from early July 2026.
Specifically, July 2nd through the 12th, right?
Right, you betcha. And our mission is to distill them down to figure out what's actually happening around town, right here in our own backyards. And we have a wild mix to get through today for you in this deep dive into the blotter.
We really do.
We are talking holiday hangovers, rogue animals, messy bedrooms requiring police intervention,
Which is still crazy to me.
right? And a few very serious cautionary tales that everyone in the community really needs to hear. So let's start with that holiday shift.
Yeah, I think the dispatch logs from the evening of the 3rd are the perfect place to start because the sheer volume of calls lighting up the board across the county is just staggering.
It was relentless. Dispatch was getting hammered with fireworks complaints from Forest Road all the way out into the rolling rural routes.
Just nonstop.
It makes me think about the folks working the headsets at the safety building, you know? I mean, the dispatch board on a July 4th weekend has to be like a busy restaurant kitchen during a Friday night fish fry rush.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, everyone is in the weeds, the tickets just keep printing out, and you literally can't clear the board fast enough.
It's a really solid comparison, but, with one massive distinction.
What's that?
Well, in a kitchen, a drop ticket or a late order just means somebody gets a cold supper.
Fair enough, yeah.
At a county dispatch center, dropping a ticket means someone's life could be on the line. And that creates this massive amount of cognitive load for the dispatchers. They are constantly forced to triage these calls in real time.
Right, because interspersed with all those annoying but harmless noise complaints about bottle rockets, you have unpredictable, totally alcohol-fueled human behavior.
The classic holiday mix.
Like the call over near the water tower.
Mm.
So dispatch gets a report of a man found passed out drunk on a lawn. He's just snoozing away with a pack of Busch Light right next to him.
Honestly, that sounds like a fairly standard 5.0 a.m. July 5th call around here.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But when the responding officer runs his information, it turns out this guy, catching some shut-eye by the water tower, has an active warrant out of Vernon County.
Wow. Which is exactly why that triage process is so incredibly complex.
Right.
Because a guy sleeping in a yard initially codes as a simple welfare check or maybe a minor public nuisance. It's a low to medium priority for them.
Just a guy who had too much Busch Light.
Right. But the second that Vernon County warrant pops up on the squad computer, the entire nature of the call flips. It immediately escalates to a potential felony arrest situation involving an out-of-county jurisdiction.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So the officer goes from being a neighborhood peacekeeper to operating on high alert because, you never know why that warrant was issued or how the subject is going to react to waking up in handcuffs.
And while they are dealing with that, dispatch is still fielding the bizarre stuff, like the BB gun incident.
Oh, the delayed casualty report.
Yes. Okay, so a few days after the 4th, an individual finally decides to report an injury that happened during the holiday weekend. He somehow managed to shoot himself in the armpit with a BB gun.
In the armpit.
In the armpit. First of all, the physics of shooting yourself in the armpit are completely baffling to me. I've been trying to act it out, and I just can't.
It takes some serious effort, I imagine.
But more importantly, when dispatch gets flooded with these shenanigans, how do they even prioritize a guy who just remembered he shot himself 3 days ago versus, say, the guy with the warrant?
Well, it all comes down to the mechanism of immediate threat.
Okay.
Dispatchers are highly trained to listen for escalating factors. So the BB gun to the armpit sounds bloody and alarming, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But because the caller is reporting it days later, The immediate danger to the public, and honestly likely to the caller himself, has completely passed.
Ah, that makes sense.
So it becomes a much lower priority follow-up. I mean, it requires medical attention, certainly, but it doesn't require an officer to run lights and sirens. The dispatcher basically has to mentally file that away while coordinating the active warrant arrest at the water tower.
Man. So the holiday definitely brought out the wild behavior in the people. But as the long weekend wrapped up and folks went back to work, the action really shifted.
It did.
The holiday hustle faded, and the local roads became the main stage for a completely different kind of chaos.
The transition back to normal summer routines always highlights the unique physical hazards of navigating a rural adjacent community like ours.
You are not kidding. Marty's towing definitely earned their keep this week.
Oh, for sure.
The absolute staple of any Midwest blotter was in full force. The classic car versus deer. It felt like a constant stream, honestly.
It really was.
There was one specific incident where an officer had to dispatch a severely injured deer on the side of the road, and then they provided the caller with a subject number so they can legally tag the carcass for the DNR.
Right.
And I see this all the time in the reports, but how exactly does that integration work? Like, why is a local city officer handling Department of Natural Resources paperwork?
Well, it's a highly efficient interagency system, really born out of necessity. If a deer is struck and killed on a public road in a major metropolitan area, it causes absolute gridlock until a specialized sanitation crew removes it.
Which takes forever.
Exactly. But here, the local law enforcement integrates directly with state wildlife management. So, giving the caller a subject number essentially transfers possession of that animal legally.
Oh, I see.
And it accomplishes two things. First, it provides food for a family willing to harvest it. And second, it immediately clears a massive 150-pound biological hazard from the shoulder of the road, which prevents secondary accidents.
It's an incredibly practical solution, honestly. But it wasn't just deer causing problems out there. We had a caller out on County Road S who reported a horse, like an actual literal horse,
Just standing there.
just standing in the middle of a residential driveway. It was entirely blocking access. The folks couldn't reach the owner. They attempted contact multiple times, and the horse was just holding its ground like a stubborn bouncer.
That's hilarious.
And then later that same week, there was a report of 3 dogs running loose together, caught on a trail camera. It seriously felt like the local wildlife and livestock were organizing a coordinated strike this week.
Well, the animal reports are a staple, yeah. But the real infrastructure clash we are seeing on these roads right now isn't biological, it's technological.
Oh, you're talking about the e-bikes.
Exactly. We are watching a real-time failure of old traffic paradigms trying to accommodate brand new technology.
It really is becoming a massive issue around town. We had a call about e-bikes just blowing right through the stop signs over on Edison.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
And another caller reported e-bikes flying out into the middle of the road near Field Street and 10th Avenue. They shot out so fast that drivers had to slam on their brakes and come to a dead, smoking stop just to avoid hitting them.
See, to understand why this is happening so frequently, you have to look at the physics and the psychology of rural driving.
Okay, lay it on me.
For decades, drivers on these roads have been trained to scan for two things: other cars and the silhouette of a deer moving laterally out of a ditch.
Right.
They are also accustomed to auditory warnings, right? Like a dirt bike or a four-wheeler makes noise. You hear it coming.
You definitely hear those coming.
Exactly. But an e-bike is entirely silent. It moves at 20 miles per hour or more, essentially giving it the speed of a neighborhood car, but the visual profile of a pedestrian.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really bad combination. And they're often being ridden by kids who don't even have a driver's license yet.
Precisely. You have juvenile operators who have never taken driver's education. They haven't been taught defensive driving, predictive scanning, or right-of-way laws.
So they're just out there winging it.
Yeah. They are operating a motorized vehicle on public infrastructure without any of the regulatory framework that actually keeps that infrastructure safe.
Which is probably why that traffic stop out by US 45 and Kopenick Road caught my eye. An officer pulled over 2 young ladies riding a four-wheeler, but no citations were issued.
Right, I saw that.
The officer just used it as a moment to educate them on the road rules. It was a very neighborly, hey, let's keep you safe conversation.
And that is proactive policing at its finest, honestly. The goal of traffic enforcement shouldn't be generating ticket revenue.
Amen to that.
It should be correcting hazardous behavior before Marty's towing has to be called out to scrape a vehicle off the pavement.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, those road hazards are largely physical problems, But when you move off the county highways and look inside the neighborhood property lines, the issues become deeply psychological.
Oh, for sure.
The blotter this week gave us a really clear look at the fabric of the community, like both the wholesome parts and the highly dysfunctional parts.
Neighborhood reports are always a mirror. They show you exactly how much trust and social cohesion exists in any given zip code.
Well, let's start with the wholesome side, over at Castle Park.
Oh.
Someone went to the free little community library box, pulled all the books out, and just threw them all over the grass.
So unnecessary.
A totally senseless, frustrating mess. But the critical detail here is the officer's response. They didn't just snap a photo, write a vandalism report, and drive away.
Right.
The responding officer physically walked through the park, picked up every single book, checked their spines for damage, and neatly organized them back into the box.
It seems like a minor detail, but it speaks volumes about civic maintenance.
Does it?
Yeah, in criminology, there is a concept called the broken windows theory. It's the idea that visible signs of disorder and neglect encourage further crime.
Oh, sure, I've heard of that.
By taking 10 minutes to restack those books, the officer is signaling that this community space is cared for. They aren't just enforcing statutes, they are actively repairing the social fabric.
I love that. And we saw residents doing that exact same kind of repair work. Over on the West Shore, a massive floating dock broke loose and was just adrift for 3 solid days.
That's a huge hazard for boaters.
A serious navigational hazard. Finally, a group of locals just grabbed their kayaks, paddled out into the lake, rigged up some tow lines, and manually hauled the dock back to the boat launch themselves.
See, that is functional self-policing. When a community feels empowered to solve low-level physical problems themselves, it prevents those issues from escalating.
And it keeps the 911 lines clear for actual emergencies. Right.
Exactly.
We even saw that same sense of civic duty at the gas pump. A woman was getting gas on Superior Street. She swiped her card, pumped her fuel, and drove away.
A pretty standard day.
Right. The station reported it as a gas drive-off. But a short time later, she voluntarily drove back to the gas station to pay her tab. She honestly believed the transaction had cleared at the pump. Once she checked her bank app and realized it hadn't, her conscience kicked in and she drove back to make it right.
Which is just a beautiful example of how intent dictates the crime.
How so?
Well, the act was identical to a theft, but the intent was purely a technological error. Her returning voluntarily nullified the criminal element entirely.
That's fair. But unfortunately, not every neighborly interaction was that pure. We also had a textbook example of weaponizing the police.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Dispatch receives an anonymous call reporting, quote, abuse and neglect at a local home.
Those are incredibly heavy words.
Legally loaded words. So the officer arrives expecting to find a harrowing situation. They do a full walkthrough of the home and discover that the house is perfectly structurally sound. There is food in the fridge. The kids are fine.
So what was the problem?
The issue. The teenager's bedroom was, quote, very messy.
It's absurd on its face, but it highlights a massive drain on local resources.
It really does.
We ask police officers to wear way too many hats, and in small towns, they frequently become amateur social workers and family mediators.
I mean, part of me laughs and thinks, wait, can I actually call the sheriff if my teenager refuses to run a vacuum?
Please don't.
I won't. But seriously, what is the legal threshold here? Where is the line between an actual crime and just needing to clean your room? How does an unmade bed escalate to a police call?
It escalates because there is a breakdown in conflict resolution skills within that home.
Oh, okay.
A parent or a guardian feels they have lost control or authority, so they attempt to borrow the ultimate authority.
The badge and the gun.
Exactly, a badge and a gun to enforce household chores. But the legal line is incredibly stark. Statutory neglect involves a failure to provide basic human needs, like adequate shelter, safety, nutrition, or medical care.
Right.
A pile of dirty laundry and some empty Mountain Dew cans do not meet the definition of neglect. But because the caller used that specific legal buzzword, the officer is legally obligated to respond.
They have to go check it out.
They have to investigate and then professionally explain to an angry adult that poor housekeeping is not a felony.
What a waste of time. And well, the transition from a messy bedroom to our next topic is a rough one because that exact same community trust we were just talking about, the trust that makes a woman return to pay for her gas.
Yeah.
That is exactly what makes this town vulnerable to serious crime.
Yes, it is. We really need to look closely at the severe financial crimes in this week's blotter because the tactics being used are highly, highly sophisticated.
It's scary. A local resident lost $25,000 this week.
Devastating.
It started with a phone call. The scammer claimed to be from Amazon, stating the resident had a past due bill. Now, that's a pretty common phishing tactic.
Very common.
But the scammer didn't stop there. They fraudulently patched in a fake representative who explicitly claimed to be from our local Vantage Bank, and that's how they extracted the funds.
The mechanics of this social engineering are brilliant in a very dark, very manipulative way.
Because they used the local name.
Exactly. Scammers understand the psychology of small-town trust. If they just demand money as Amazon, a massive faceless corporation, the victim's critical thinking usually kicks in. They get skeptical.
Right, because, nobody has a personal relationship with Jeff Bezos.
Exactly. But the scammer initiates an amygdala hijack. They induce panic with the threat of debt. Then they immediately offer a false safe harbor. Yes. By spoofing local numbers and introducing the name Vantage, they completely bypass the victim's skepticism. Vantage isn't a faceless corporation to this caller. It's a brick-and-mortar building they drive past on their way to the grocery store every week.
They probably know the tellers by name.
Precisely. The scammer borrows the credibility of a trusted local institution to walk right through our digital front door.
So what is the defense against that? Because in the moment, when you are panicked and you hear the name of your local bank, your brain just accepts it.
The defense is absolute unyielding verification. If you receive a call from anyone claiming to be your bank, especially if they were transferred by a third party like Amazon, you hang up the phone.
Just hang up.
Do not engage. You independently look up the local branch number yourself, or better yet, you drive down to the bank and speak to someone face to face. You have to break that psychological momentum the scammer is relying on.
Hang up the phone. It's that simple, folks. But the fraud wasn't just digital this week either.
No, it wasn't.
We had a resident walk right into the safety building lobby to report a forged signature on a real estate document. A step-sibling allegedly forged their signature on a quitclaim deed for a property out in Summit Lake.
Which just demonstrates that the threat isn't always an anonymous call center halfway across the globe.
Sometimes it's right in the family.
Sometimes the threat is sitting next to you at the Thanksgiving dinner table. And the mechanics of this are brazen.
Yeah, how does that even work?
Well, a quitclaim deed transfers ownership of real property, and it requires notarization. That means this wasn't a crime of opportunity. It required a layered, premeditated effort to subvert a legal paper trail.
It is deeply unsettling to realize someone in your own family would execute that level of fraud.
It really is.
And speaking of unsettling threats right in our own backyards, we need to end the blotter today with a very clear local safety alert.
Yes, this is important.
A caller reported a highly suspicious situation near Airhole Lake Lane. A man driving a white, short-box pickup truck was pulling up to women in the area. He claimed to be a local construction worker, and he was aggressively harassing them and asking to sleep with them.
This is a textbook example of a predator using camouflage to test boundaries.
Explain that a bit more. What do you mean by camouflage?
Well, he's claiming to be a construction worker because it provides a socially acceptable excuse for a white pickup truck to be idling slowly through a residential neighborhood.
Oh, I see.
If you see a random beat-up sedan creeping along, you get suspicious immediately. If you see a white pickup, you subconsciously think, oh, someone is getting their roof repaired, and you drop your guard.
Wow, that makes terrifying sense. Fortunately, the caller did exactly what she was supposed to do.
She handled it perfectly.
She didn't engage with the individual. She noted the specific vehicle description, a white short box pickup, and she immediately called dispatch to put it on their radar.
Which is crucial.
So if anyone listening to this sees this vehicle or experiences this behavior, do not try to confront him. Call dispatch immediately. The police can't patrol every rural road simultaneously, so they rely entirely on the community to act as their eyes and ears.
The safety of the community ultimately rests on the residents' willingness to observe and report accurately.
And that brings us to the bottom of the stack for this week. It's time for our community takeaway.
The wrap-up.
Yep. If we had to boil all these reports down into some practical neighborly advice for you, it would be this. When you're out on the county highways, keep a sharp eye out for the deer because they are on the move.
And the e-bikes.
And the e-bikes.
Right.
Keep an even sharper eye on your bank accounts, and if Amazon ever tries to transfer you to your local bank, hang up immediately. Be kind to the community spaces. Maybe organize the books if you see them scattered at the park.
Always a good idea.
And maybe go run a vacuum in your bedroom just in case your family decides to weaponize the police department against you.
It's good advice. But looking at this stack of reports leaves me with one lingering thought.
What's that?
We've talked a lot today about the cognitive load on the dispatchers and the officers, but there's an immense psychological burden there too,
House.
because they live here.
Oh, right.
The dispatcher who took the call about the forged quitclaim deed, they might sit 2 pews behind that exact family at church on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
The officer who arrested the guy with the Vernon County warrant might bump into him in the produce aisle at the grocery store next week. They are the secret keepers of this town.
That's a heavy thought.
They know exactly whose marriages are failing, who is struggling with addiction, and who is stealing from their own siblings. Yet they have to walk around this community, smile, and pretend they just see perfectly manicured lawns, just like the rest of us.
Gosh, that is a heavy reality to carry. It entirely changes how you look at a squad car sitting at a stoplight, doesn't it?
It really does.
You realize they aren't just looking at traffic. They're looking at a living map of the town's deepest secrets. Well, thank you for that perspective. And thank you all for sitting down with us at the table for this week's deep dive into the blotter. Stay safe out there, look out for your neighbors, and we will catch you next time.